The phone used to be something that was controlled by the telecommunications monopolies. And over the last few years, there's been a whole sort of renaissance in telephony technology that's built around voice over IP. You can now run your own phone company on free software. What that means is you can do all of the creative call center and interactive voice menus and that kind of stuff on your own phone system or on your own home computer. So many activist groups will now set up a call-in line.
Using their own phone system, the Kubatana Trust of Zimbabwe developed a platform that ensured citizens were informed via an SMS about where they could vote in government elections.
In Zimbabwe, we've had many elections over the last 7 or so years. One of the government's tactics was to make it difficult for people to work out where to vote, and indeed to register to vote even. But one of the things that we did was to help people find out where to vote by cooperating with another organization that had managed eventually to get the voters' roll into a database format. We got people to send us their national registration IDs using SMS. We compared those IDs against this database, and then we SMS back to the people where they could vote. It was a very interesting campaign. A lot of people took advantage of it.
While thousands of people used this system developed by the Kubatana Trust, the experience showed that lack of literacy and language differences continued to limit people's use of SMS services. To address this, Kubatana are now developing Freedom Phone, a system that uses voice recognition rather than text to provide people with information.
The Freedom Phone project is being built out so that each group can take a copy of the software and run it on their own system and simply provide the menus of what kind of information they're going to access and provide. Freedom Phone registers that they called, and the phone system calls them back. So the organization is able to cover all the costs.
There is a tool that has been overlooked, I think, by the development sector, and that's the area of interactive voice response. We believe that if we can make this an easier device to use by nonprofits, that we will see people reach out to their communities using dial-up information services, which would become almost the poor person's equivalent of the internet, being able to dial up for information when you need it.
Designing and using technologies that can listen to people's needs and respond quickly can be a good way to quickly address immense gaps in information and improve information flows. When corruption and rights abuses are being committed by those with the most power, such as governments, multinational companies, police, or the military, it is sometimes necessary to investigate and expose what is going on. Although there was widespread knowledge of police brutality in Egypt, it was an issue the mainstream media seemed unwilling to report on. To help affected citizens carry out investigations, journalist Noha Atef began a blog called Torture in Egypt.
All the content is about torture crimes committed in Egypt and the relationship between policemen and citizens. Torture in Egypt started in the time torture was not highlighted enough at all. Torture crimes were rarely mentioned on TV. It was not very interesting to mainstream media. So torture in Egypt highlighted it. And it was inspiring to other internet users, special bloggers, to write about torturing and even their views, because what they were reading in Torture in Egypt was really shocking.
By uncovering human rights abuses in Egypt, through this blog, Noha has managed to correct some serious injustices. In 2007, a woman wrote telling Noha that her husband had been kept in prison for 14 years, even though the courts had found him not guilty of the crime he was arrested for.
The court sentenced that he was not guilty, but the policeman, a certain policeman, kept him detained. And he was renewing the paper for him to keep him in jail. And I wrote about it more than time and I was following it up.
Noha's article was cited in mainstream media across Egypt. The policeman involved in the case wrote to her, upset at the public attention he was receiving. A short time later, the jailed man was released from prison, free, as he should have been 14 years earlier. Another effective investigation was carried out in Tunisia.
The story of the Tunisian airplane video began when a friend of mine, a Tunisian activist and blogger, was searching the internet for photos related to airplanes in Tunisia, and he found the image of the Tunisian presidential airplane in a website for jet spotter, people who share photos about planes that they took in airport. So, and he kept on searching, and he found more than 20 photos of the same presidential airplane in different airports in Europe. So what he done, he went to the Tunisian presidential websites and took the list of the official trips of the Tunisian president and compared that to the photos with dates and places of the image of the Tunisian presidential airplane in Europe, and he found out that only one trip was official. So the question that he asked was, who is using the Tunisian airplane and why? And he went out and he made a video mashing up those images using Google Earth, flying on the different airports where the plane were witnessed, and publishing that on YouTube and engaging the Tunisian blogosphere to talk about this case of transparency and abuse of power. Big mainstream media like Foreign Policy magazine, who published a story about that, investigated the case and said that the Tunisian airplane was used by the First Lady of Tunisia for some personal shopping in luxurious shops in Europe.
As a result of the public attention this video received, the government in Tunisia blocked YouTube and another popular video sharing site, Dailymotion. Despite this story, like the Torture in Egypt blog, shows us how the internet can be used both as a tool to investigate abuses of power and to broadcast and spread the truth. As digital tools become cheaper, more widespread, and easier to use, our ability to access, analyze, and share information grows. By linking new technologies with creative thinking, communities and advocates can transform information into powerful action that defends and promotes human rights. Tactical Tech have been working with rights advocates to use information for advocacy for over a decade. In this film, we've collected advocates' stories and shown 10 tactics you can use to turn information into a force for change. If you'd like to implement some of these tactics, try using one of our toolkits and guides, which will tell you how to use different techniques and provide you with the software and tools you will need. Then think about how you can document your own info activism stories. And when you have done this, tell us, so that we can share these stories with others. The information age is here, and with it comes the power for us all to make change.
Essayé de s'expliquer, tous les mots étaient incomplets, mais les gens n'ont jamais pu l'écrire. Puis enfin Aline est arrivée, en chantant ses belles mélodies, c'est son mot est moins compliqué. On nous appelait What did you say? What did you say? What did you say? What did you say? C'est le son de tous ces chants, ce sont des ondes
by Charlie Wayne, by Jolene Wayne.